Hey guys, today's installment, we're going to be talking about the idea of peace again. That seems to be a really short supply right now in our world. And the biblical idea of peace is kind of a holistic welfare, your well being, or a general sense of contentment inside. It's a very broad term. We might think of, though, peace right now as kind of the opposite of fear. That peace gives us this understanding of the world that's bigger than just our current circumstances. Now, Hezekiah, in the book of Isaiah, that's what we're going to be looking at today, chapters 36 through 38. Hezekiah understood the lack of peace, a lot of fear. Hezekiah was a king of Israel, and at the time that he was king, the people were not kind of doing what God wanted them to do. They were overtly pushing against it. But Hezekiah was a good leader, and he cried out to God when the Assyrian army was at the doorsteps of Jerusalem. They were about to overrun them. And Hezekiah cried out and said, "Hey, God, I need your help. These enemy is coming at us, and I'm afraid, but I know you can do something about it." And God did in a really miraculous way. If you've never read the passage, 36 and 37 is about God's deliverance of the nation of Israel through Hezekiah. Now, immediately coming off the heels of that, though, God allows this disease to hit Hezekiah. So he's overcome as a leader this external enemy of his people, the Assyrians, and now he's faced with an internal enemy of this disease. We don't know exactly what it was, but we do know that God sent Isaiah to tell Hezekiah that you're not going to live. Now, Hezekiah kind of turns over in his bed and says, "God, I really want to live. I love you. I've done right by you. Would you please spare my life?" And God heard Hezekiah, and he did just that. And so Hezekiah wrote this kind of lament psalm that is very similar to some of the stuff that's in Psalms. We're going to focus in on this video on one verse, though. This is Isaiah chapter 38, verse 17. And it says, "Behold, it was for my welfare that I had great bitterness. But in love you have delivered my life from the pit of destruction." It was for my welfare. Now, this word welfare here is the Hebrew word shalom. This is what we're talking about. So he says, "It was for my welfare that I had great bitterness, and in love you delivered me." So it's for my peace that I've been allowed to have this bitterness. Now, those two things generally don't go hand in hand, right? Now, this is not talking about the bitterness that is kind of unresolved anger or somebody who's not willing to forgive another person becomes bitter about it toward them. And this is a bitterness that's more of a general kind of wrestling with God time, a very hard time. Other times in the Old Testament, it's literally translated bitterness of taste, that somebody physically tastes a taste of bitterness. And it got me thinking, maybe there's a cue here from our taste buds that we can learn from. So I Googled, how do you develop a broad palate? How do you learn to enjoy a lot of different kinds of foods? And I'll link there to the article below. But they say what you think of, you've got to try a lot of different kinds of foods and don't limit it to your one cultural foods or anything like that. But one interesting thing that I found was that sugar is actually the antidote to a broad palate, to enjoying a lot of kinds of foods. Because what sugar does is it kind of overrides the rest of your palate. So you learn to kind of only like sweet. Now, in America, we can probably understand that because we all like really sweet stuff. But what it's doing is it's destroying our ability to taste a wider range of tastes. Now, I think that might be kind of what God might bring us through this, and how we can gain peace through this. So God has given us a lot of good times. It's been a blessed time, and even our church, as we're kind of redirecting and refocusing, God has been blessing. It's been really cool and good, and we've learned to get to know each other more, and I've seen God do some really neat things. But God is giving us a time of bitterness right now, and it's almost maybe, if you will, a palate cleanser from all the sugar that we've had, that we've been ingesting. Now, that's not to say that the sugar is bad and all the time, but guys, I think this kind of bitter time, this kind of wrestling with God and this struggle is going to bring us out on the other side to where we can say it was for our peace that God brought us through this time of bitterness. Because God loves us, he saves us from the pit of destruction. It is his love that continues to drive us. So guys, let's keep a bigger perspective on what's going on in our world, that God is developing himself in us to be more like Jesus. I love you, and I can't wait to be with you.